Since Huawei's 5G global leadership, the United States has been increasing chip restrictions in recent years. Last year, it issued the strictest and most stringent new export control regulations. Later, it ruled Japan and the Netherlands and reached a tripartite agreement to jointly implement restrictions. Recently, the Netherlands and Japan have successively announced that they will implement export controls. Just when people thought restrictions would continue to tighten, the attitude of the United States suddenly changed. They will extend the exemption period, and perhaps it will be a permanent exemption. However, foreign media believe that it has begun to suppress it in disguise. Initially, the United States mainly restricted the development of logic chips in China. On the one hand, they banned TSMC and Samsung from producing high-end chips for Chinese companies on the subject list. For example, the Kirin chip designed by Huawei HiSilicon could have started to compete with Apple and Qualcomm. On the other hand, it restricts the export of advanced chip equipment and technology and hinders the development of high-end chip manufacturing in fabs of Chinese companies such as SMIC. For example, restricting ASML shipment of high-end lithography machines first restricted EUV and then restricted immersion DUV. However, under the lobbying of Micron Technology, the United States has added memory chips to the list of restrictions, and the relevant restriction standards have been added to the new regulations. Micron Technology, as an American memory chip giant, is also known as the three global storage giants, together with South Korea's Samsung and SK Hynix, and is naturally a competitor. Samsung and SK Hynix have a larger market share than Micron Technology, and they also have memory wafers in a factory in mainland China. In addition, Chinese storage systems have begun to surge ahead in recent years, and technologies such as Yangtze River storage and Changjiang storage continue to make breakthroughs. As a result, Micron Technology began to make calculations, lobbying the United States to obstruct the development of China's storage industry, so the United States began to restrict memory chips. However, the new regulations restrict the shipment of advanced equipment to the mainland, which not only affects Chinese companies but also affects Korean companies Samsung and SK Hynix, because in addition to Yangtze River storage and Changjiang storage, which are expanding their fabs, the mainland fabs of Samsung and SK Hynix are also expanded. However, Samsung and SK Hynix quickly obtained a one-year exemption period, but the expansion of the fab will take several years. So Samsung and SK Hynix have been worrying about what to do after 1 year, so they have been actively communicating, hoping to extend it. Recently, news came that the United States plans to extend the exemption period. According to Korean media, Samsung and SK Hynix have obtained VEU authorization from the United States, and there is no need to apply for an export license for each project, which is equivalent to obtaining an indefinite exemption from the United States. The reason why Samsung and SK Hynix are eager to extend the exemption period is because their factories in mainland China for a large proportion of production capacity. For example, the NAND production capacity of Samsung's 11 plant accounts for 40% of the company's overall production capacity. Their expansion needs to plan the purchase of production equipment in advance, so that U.S. semiconductor equipment manufacturers can arrange production in advance, which requires the extension of the exemption period before planning. At the same time, South Korean chip companies have been hit hard by U.S. restrictions on chip production. For this reason, the South Korean government and the companies concerned are communicating with the relevant U.S. ministries, asking the U.S. to reconsider the restrictions. According to recent U.S. media news, the Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Commerce stated that the Biden administration intends to extend the exemption period to allow Samsung, SK Hynix, and TSMC to maintain their business in the mainland. As soon as the news came out, Samsung and SK Hynix breathed a sigh of relief. In this regard, some analysts believe that the United States has begun to relax restrictions. However, according to a foreign media analysis, citing industry insiders, the United States has actually changed its chip restriction strategy because it was discovered after several years of suppression that it did not stop China chip from advancing. As a result, the United States began trying to dump and suppress the routine in some respects. It told foreign media that it had begun a disguised suppression. Take memory chips as an example. Domestic memory chips are rapidly evolving. YMTC's NAND technology has reached a world-leading level. The 232-layer NAND flash memory was the first to reach mass production and application, ahead of Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron Technology, and others. Despite some impact of constraints, the National Endowment has increased its capital and strengthened the substitution of domestic equipment in a timely manner, and it continues to move forward. As a result, the U.S. lifted restrictions on Samsung and SK Hynix, allowing them to suppress the development of storage systems by Chinese companies. Not only that, Micron Technology also began to act, announcing an investment of 44.3 billion yuan in a test plant, showing its favorability to China and seeking a larger market share. Regarding logic chips, since China is focused on the development of 28-nanometer mature process technology, it will have an advantage at this level. Therefore, TSMC's constraints have also been relaxed, allowing it to expand the mature mainland factory process to capture a share of the mature process technology. So this U.S. move is not an easing of restrictions. Otherwise, how could the exemption period for Samsung, SK Hynix, and TSMC simply be extended without any change in the restrictions for Chinese companies? It can be seen that the goal of U.S. chip restrictions has not changed at all. In this regard, China must be vigilant and must insist on building an independent domestic chip industry chain in order to completely win the future. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel and write your opinion in the comments.